talk about this offense a little bit here from the Sun Devils. While Sam Leavitt did not have a game that blew me away, look, this is a guy that coming into the season, the expectation is that he's one of the top quarterbacks in the country. Last year, threw for nearly 2,900 yards, 24 touchdowns, just 6 picks, completed 62% of his passes, and obviously was a threat on the ground. And we saw that in this game against Northern Arizona, where he has on 7 carries, 73 yards, and a pair of touchdowns, right? And he has one really long touchdown where he scrambles and avoids pressure and then takes it for like a 50-plus yard run. The guy is definitely a threat with his legs, maybe even more so than Braylon Braxton, who State saw a week ago. So you get a little bit of a tune-up from what you saw last week dealing with Braylon Braxton, but I think Leavitt is even more of a threat with his legs. Now, as a passer, the arm talent is there. It feels like he does still have some progressing that he has to do. And that he's not, like I kind of mentioned, getting locked in on his top receiver. And Jordyn Tyson is outstanding, right? Jordyn Tyson is a guy that in this game ends up catching 12 passes for 141 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Right. He's a really, really good player. I mean, he was a 1,000-yard receiver with 10 touchdowns a season ago. And that guy, they'll move him around the field. They'll play him outside and let him win one-on-one balls. They'll put him in the slot to give him better matchups or screen passes to him, do run-after-catch stuff. He's an all-around really, really good playmaker. So if you're going to throw to one guy, he's a guy to throw to. But at the same time, though, if you only have one guy you really trust in your passing game, that does limit what you have. And I know he's not supposed to be the only guy, right? They have a tight end they like, and Shimon Matire. They got a couple other receivers they feel pretty good about. But for Leavitt to be a more experienced quarterback, you would hope you would see him be able to spread a little bit more than he showed in week 1. So that's something you're going to be watching if you're State defensively in this game, is how does that change week 1 to week 2. Now, they got some talent at running back. Obviously, all the conversation was around losing Cam Scadabo and the massive season he had a year ago. They're in good shape at that position. Raleek Brown is an absolute stud. This is a kid that transferred from USC going into last season and was hurt, did not play last year. In this game, 5 carries, 38 yards, and a touchdown doesn't jump off the page, but that's 7.6 a carry. And as a receiver, he caught 3 passes for 13 yards, which, and again, I know that stand out, but like if you go back and this is one of those you got to watch the highlights to see it. And as I mentioned, they had a long screen pass that got taken back. It was his. He had a 75-yard touchdown off a screen pass that was called back for penalty. He is very elusive and speedy in the open field. He is someone that State fans are going to, not State fans, State's defense is going to have to contend with. But also there in the backfield, another kind of dual threat guy, Tyson Brown, caught 6 passes for 72 yards in this game. Also ran the ball, though, for 73 yards on 7 carries. So averaged 10 yards a carry in this game with a long of 34. That's a really talented player. And then a guy who barely got involved, Kanye Udo, 2 carries for 19 yards. So, not going to jump off the page. But that's a guy who a season ago for Army was a 1,000-yard rusher. I know there's all this attention, like Cam Scadabo gone, and obviously he terrorized Mississippi State defensively in this past week. Not past week, past year. They still got talent at running back. They don't got one guy, but they've got a good group there. This game will answer a lot of questions regarding our defense for sure. Yeah, like State's corners, State's whole secondary, I will say, is going to get tested because, okay, you've got something good going now with Kelly Jones and Diego Brumfield. Based off one game, Jordyn Tyson is going to match up with them some. They're also going to put Jordyn Tyson in the slot. So State's safeties and potentially Isaac Smith, who does play some as a nickel, those guys are going to have to face Jordyn Tyson and see how they handle that. And then State's run defense. You got a quarterback that is a great dual threat. You got some running backs who are big-time playmakers in space. This is going to be a big test for State's defense. Now, the one big thing for their offense is their pass protection last week was not great. And I do think if you're State, that is going to be something huge to watch here. Can your defensive line give them problems? Can your defensive line find a way to create more pressure in this game? And I do think if you're State, like I would understand wanting to heat up Tyson a little bit here heat up Leavitt a little bit here because I do think when Leavitt gets under pressure, like The takeaway for him is, okay, I got to scramble, I got to get out of the pocket and try to make something happen. And it's a lot of like, screw it, it's either Jordyn Tyson's down there somewhere or I'm taking off and running. Both of those things would concern me as outcomes. But I also think there's the chance that you force him into a mistake. So I will be very interested to see what State does in terms of trying to attack Leavitt in this game. Now, the other big question I have for State's defense against this offense is what style do they take? Last year, we saw a lot of State playing with the 3-3-5 looks, and it didn't work well last year. Now, especially against Arizona State, who was able to just bully them physically up front, and that you give them those light boxes for Cam Scadaboo to run into, and it killed them. And I do think Arizona State is not the same type of spread team that defense is as effective against. It is a little different this year, though, that you've got better defensive linemen up front. You know, you get Will Whitson being named co-SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week. DeRay Bledsoe had a great game. And you've got some other DJ Reed had a great game. You've got more big bodies up front who could potentially match up against Arizona State's offensive line. Can you get away with having 3 down linemen? And do you want to? Because, look, here's the other thing to remember. When you're playing that style of defense, it's not that we are saying we are trying to shut down the run game. You are saying we are going to force the opposing offense to have to go on long, sustained drives. It is bend, don't break. We are trusting that you are going to make a mistake somewhere along the way. We are trusting that once you get into the red zone and the spacing is tighter, you won't be able to convert. I don't know if I have a good answer. That might be something I have to think on. And when we get to Thursday's show, I have a better answer of which way I want to go. Mm-hmm. How State chooses to play this thing, though, will be very interesting to me. Because I do think there's a point of wanting to pressure Leavitt more than maybe you wanted to try to pressure Braxton. But you could also get yourself into trouble, too, with some of the weapons that they have. I thought it was interesting that State was pretty straight up with the pressure. Wonder if we see a lot more stunts and twists this week. I think last week against Southern Miss, and I talked about this in the postgame, it was very clear to me that approach was what I just talked about. The reason they played so much 3-3-5 was we are just keeping it all in front of us. Southern Miss, over the course of a 4-quarter game, our talent is going to be better than their talent, and if we force them to have to run more plays to be able to score, that's going to show out, and that's exactly what happened. How does that work against Arizona State? That's going to interest me, if that's the approach you take.
Yeah, we talk every week about I know we just got started with the season. We're recapping week 1, getting ready for week 2. But I think a big challenge, and you kind of hit the nail on the head with it, was Arizona State's got some dudes up front on that offensive line to protect Sam Leavitt. And I want to see our defense here for Mississippi State push those guys around. I look at this roster, and quite honestly, I see a lot of young guys. I see maybe 7 or 8 different freshman guys. But then you do have a couple seniors. You have a bunch of sophomores and some still young guys. But more than half these guys are over 315. And those are some big bodies that they can put out there. They have a lot of big guys in that room that they can rotate around. And when you have the defensive front that you have for Mississippi State, you expect, at least for me, I expect them to struggle against those type of bodies up front on the field. But is it too much of a challenge that they can't overcome that? I mean, I thought they did okay at times in the Southern Miss game handling stuff like that. We had mentioned that, it's not every single guy for Southern Miss, but they still had a couple key guys out there that were big enough to push us around. And, that's kind of one of the things I want to see this next week.
Yeah, and look, the way they handled Southern Miss, at the end of the day, they were bigger and better. And Southern was not able to get much of a run game going in that game.
Right.
There's also a point, though, like Southern stylistically, like Southern's run game is built off of spacing and RPO threat. And that's excluding the quarterback run game aspect of it. Everything they want to do running the football is off the fact that we are spreading the field, and then we have the RPO threats that you have to deal with as well. It's a very similar, if not the same type of approach that Mississippi State takes offensively. And I know Ask the coordinators, offensive line coaches from every single one of these teams, they will tell me that I'm dead wrong. It's all about physicality, and we're trying to be more powerful, stronger than our opponent. I'm just telling you, the way these offenses work, the run game functions the way it does because of the spacing. And those type of run games get into trouble, especially against those 3-3-5 type looks that Mississippi State likes to employ. Arizona State's a little bit different story. Like, they're not going to be a 21 or 12 personnel team with any regularity. They're going to spread the field, but they're also, I think, more of a traditional run game, I would say, with some of what they're trying to do in the trenches. They're a little bit more pro style with their approach on the way they want to play things, and that does change things a little bit for you up front. And can you hold up against that will be interesting. And obviously, dealing with how they find matchups for Jordyn Tyson is going to be a big challenge for them as well. I think you have to force Sam Leavitt into mistakes. That's what it comes down to. He is still a good quarterback, but ultimately you've got to find a way to force him into mistakes, force him to throw where he doesn't need to. To me, that's probably State's best chances here against ASU.